Financial Accounting 10 Segment Reporting. This is Ken Boyd, the owner of St. Louis Test Preparation. Here's our Facebook page, St. Louis Test Prep, our LinkedIn group, MBA Accounting and Finance, and our reference is the Advanced Accounting Text, Chapter 10, from authors Beams, Clement, and Anthony. So what is segment reporting generally? It's providing meaningful information to financial statement readers about pieces, segments, divisions of your business. What do I need to present that's meaningful? So this is adapted from a student question that I received. ABC Corporation is a highly diversified company, and it has 4 industry identified segments that do different things. A does commercial fishing, B is in the healthcare business, C is in the paper business, D is in the vehicle business. So in a very basic way, I provided some income statement information on sales, cost of sales, selling and admin, and total expenses. So the first thing we need to do is talk about what the rule is generally about a reportable segment. There's really 3 of them, and then there's a third one that I don't have printed in this list, but I have calculated above. Does the segment have 10% or more of the combined revenue? If so, we report it. Do they have 10% or more of the absolute value of the profit or loss? So that would be either profit, the absolute value, whether it is a profit or a loss. Looking at it in terms of dollars. If we lost $10, is that $10 loss 10% or more of the total profit and loss? And finally, are the assets 10% or more? We're going to find out in this example that 2 of the segments need to get reported. And then we're going to do something on total revenue here in a minute. So I think if you do get a test question like this, the way to set it up is to do sales by segment first. So I have my segments. I have sales and revenue for each. And what I'm looking at in this formula is what percentage of total sales does each segment have? So for example, for A, 125 is 50% of the roughly 250,000 sales, that formula. 23,000 is about 9% of sales. And I see that the sales total agrees to the sales total in the income statement. So 2 of the segments, A and D, have 10% or more of the total revenue or sales for the company. How about profit? Which of the companies have 10% or more in an absolute value of the profit or loss? So I had to do a little calculation of profit because it wasn't given to me specifically. So this formula for A represents sales less cost of sales less general and admin expenses for this particular segment. On general and admin for a minute, the question gave us how much of the general and admin was directly traceable to each segment. So for example, directly traceable to A is $3,700. So if I need to find profit for segment reporting, my profit for A is 125 in sales, less 72,000 cost of sales, less 3,700 general and admin. That's how I got 49,300. And it turns out that 49,300 is about 81% of our total profit, and that total profit number 60,900 adds up to the total net income right here. We go on to talk about assets. Consolidated assets, and we see that A, oh, and by the way, before I leave profit, the only profit that's 10% or more of the total is A's profit. So A would be the only segment we would report for based on the profit calculation, because A is the only one that has a profit that's 10% or more of the total profit. Finally, for assets, pretty simple. Assets were given in the problem. A happens to have 51% of the total assets. This was all given. So I find that segment A and segment D both have 10% or more of the total assets. So based on my analysis, if I look at all three of the measurements, in terms of revenue, I would report A and D, they were over 10%. If I report on that profit and loss criteria, A was the only one that had 10% or more of the absolute value of the profit. And of the assets, A and D both met the criteria. So far we find out that we would report A and D, because if you meet any one of these three criteria, you would get reported. There is one more thing, though, you need to consider. And this says reportable segment revenue test. Of the segments that you report, do those segments represent 75% or more of the total revenue? So if I have A and D, and I add them up, A and D, I get total revenue of $205,000, which is 82% of the total revenue or sales. So I know that in my segmented reporting, I'm covering 75% or more of the sales. So it's a big enough picture, big enough selection that it's meaningful to a financial statement reader. That's the end of Financial Accounting 10. Not on the web is a series of additional videos and spreadsheets not on YouTube. Our YouTube channel, Ken Boyd, STL, all one word. You can email for a complete listing of videos on YouTube. Our live tutoring and chat sessions are at stltest.net, the website. You can email or call for live one-on-one tutoring and live chat sessions on these topics. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.